Let's talk about Module 2 and interview basics. In this module, we're going to talk about what to bring on an interview, what to wear, some non-verbal communication tips, handling those dreaded moments of silence, and your elevator speech. Number one thing to bring to an interview, can anyone guess it? Go ahead, throw out some answers, write something down. Number one thing, confidence. We want to make sure that we show up to an interview with confidence. Trust yourself because you know more than you think you do. What else can you bring to an interview? Extra resumes. Make sure you have some extra resumes. I know you submitted those when you applied for the position, and they should have a copy in front of them, but sometimes they don't. And a lot of times it's easier if they have something in front of them to point them to some questions to ask you. So bring some extra copies of your resume. 2, the other reason why that's important is because maybe your resume got updated since you applied for that position and you have a little bit more to talk about. So print off some extra resumes, bring them with you. If it's a little different than when you applied, hand them out. Let them know that. Bring copies of your references. Don't hand them out to anyone at that time in the beginning. If you're asked for your references, you have them ready to go. Don't ever put your references in when you apply for a position. I've seen people do this. They append them on the end of their resume. They put them on their cover letter. Don't do this. It's not needed. Keep those references in your pocket till you're asked for them when you're moving on to that stage of the process. Couple reasons for that. One is it's not needed. It just makes it more confusing when you apply for a position and add your references. 2, you want to call your references and let them know that someone asked for your references and you're excited about this position and you're moving on to the next thing. So this way they're prepared for when they get a phone call or that company reaches out to them, they're prepared to speak highly of you. Bring letters of recommendations if you have them. If you're asked for them, you'll be prepared. Any copies of your certifications or awards, right? In the IT space, you may have certifications, CompTIA, A+, CCNA, whatever those are, right? Bring those numbers with you. Any proof that you have those certifications or awards, you may want to break them out during the interview and show them if you're asked for them. Bring the questions that you prepared so you can ask them at the end of the interview typically. We'll talk more about those later on. Business cards if you have them. Not everyone has business cards. Totally fine if you don't. But if you do have business cards, probably not from your current employer, then bring those with you. A notepad and writing instrument. I like, the portfolios, something like in this image here with the legal pad, some type of portfolio where I can put my pen. I can also put my spare resumes in there, my references, my letter of recommendations, all of those things can be nice and neat in that. If I don't fit it all in there, I might bring a briefcase or something to carry all of this stuff with me. I may even throw a bottle of water in that bag as well. You never know. Sometimes there's long waits between interviews. Sometimes potential employers will offer you a water, and that's awesome, but sometimes they won't. So be prepared for that. What to wear on an interview. Make sure you wear appropriate attire based on the position you're applying for. You don't want to show up for a high-level position with jeans and a t-shirt. A suit with a coat on is very formal, but when you remove the coat, it can be less formal. So sometimes having a suit is very flexible. You can ask someone that works there what their dress code is or what their company dress code is. If you don't know anyone that works there and you live nearby the place, you could drive by during shift change, right? When people are going in the morning or when they're leaving, and try to see what they're wearing. As a failsafe, you can always ask the recruiter who set up the interview, what's the dress code? And that will give you a clue as to what to wear. Make sure you wear matching suit, jacket, skirts, right? Traditional colors. Try black, navy, dark gray. Nothing crazy or outlandish. Make sure the shirt is simple. Something white, neutral, less distracting the better. Dress appropriately, not too flashy. And when you have those two options, right, conservative, always err on the side of conservative when given the option. Pay close attention to jewelry, cosmetics, right, perfume, cologne. Sometimes less is more in this case. You don't want to overdo it on the cologne. You don't want to overdo it on the perfume, that kind of thing. Hygiene is also an important factor. So show up well groomed. Your clothing is clean, you're pressed, you're polished, right? Your hair is combed, that kind of thing. If you have to fly to an interview, I always recommend to pack these things in your carry-on, because when your luggage gets lost, if you have it in your carry-on, it's a non-issue and you don't have to worry about it. I know that can be a little tough. You might have to fold it up, but you can iron it beforehand, make sure it's presentable. Next, let's talk about nonverbal communication, body language, gestures, eye contact, your posture, tone of voice, and many, many others, right? Ensure that you're taking this into consideration when you communicate. Be sure to smile when it's appropriate. Even if you're on a phone interview, as we mentioned in one of the earlier modules, it's important to smile while on the phone. It makes a difference in the way your words come across. Body language is important. So good posture, no slouching, sit comfortably. Other nonverbal cues such as leaning forward when you're saying something exciting, right? To bring your point in and nodding at the appropriate times can be helpful. So think about those things as you're communicating with the interviewer or interviewers. Be sure to maintain eye contact. Very, very important. Not being able to show eye contact may cause the interviewer to question your sincerity and believe that maybe you're not confident. Let's move on to the next topic. Moments of silence. In general, people don't care for silence, right? It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us feel awkward when it happens. And if you've ever heard someone speak or have spoken yourself, you have inevitably said the word I do it all the time. It's a filler word, and while we're thinking of what to say next, instead of having that dreaded silence, we say things like things along those lines. Try to minimize your use of as much as possible when on interviews and in life. I'm always on a journey to try to minimize the number of that I use day to day. Silence can and will happen during your interview, and I'm here to tell you that it's okay. Remain calm. Don't panic. Silence is not a terrible thing. Chances are the silence you're feeling is probably a lot shorter than you think. If it does seem to go too long, you can always ask if they need any other details on your answer. But don't just go on with your answer or nervous talk just to fill the space. That's not the right thing to do. Remain calm. It'll be okay. The silence will pass, I promise. Let's talk about an elevator speech. An elevator speech is a brief overview of your background and experience. The term elevator speech comes from the scenario: if you were in an elevator and someone in a position of power asked who you are, you would have a short time frame to tell them about your value until you reach the floor either you or they were getting off on, right? So it's typically this time frame that aligns to an elevator speech of about 30 to 60 seconds. I say you can stretch your elevator speech to 90 if you must, but try to keep it within that 30 to 90 overall, and I always recommend 30 to 60. Your elevator speech will be used for a few different scenarios. One, when you're in an interview and you're asked, tell me about yourself. The other place it can be used if you're at a job or career fair where you're talking to those at the table or booth. Elevator speech is a great place for this. Likewise, you can also use it at networking events and on your bio on your social media places like LinkedIn. To design your elevator speech, you should take a few things into account. 1, your skills. 2, positivity. 3, goals. And 4, persuasion. You don't need to run through all your experience from the time that you had your first job when you were 14 years old, right? Just choose a few key highlights that are impactful. Think quantifiable achievements. If it's a networking event, you may want to just start off your speech with introducing yourself with your first name, such as, my name is Frank, and then talk about what your most recent role is, one of your big accomplishments, and what you're most proud of. Then talk about your historical experience, what led you to where you are, and then finish it off with something forward-looking, such as what you're looking to do next and why you're interested in this position. Or if it's during a networking event, you can talk about the type of position you're looking to land. Have your speech ready at all times, even when you're not going on an interview, when you're not going to a job fair, when you're not going to a networking event. Have an elevator speech prepared at all times, because you never know when it'll come up and who you're talking to. It could lead to opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about crafting your elevator speech. Just a few tips. This will give you a basic idea of what to do with your elevator speech. So 1, my name is, what is your name? 2, I am an, what do you see yourself as? What are you good at? Okay. In your current position, what's your current job title? Any recent challenge you may have had? How did you solve that challenge? Something that's important to the company that you're interviewing with. You always want to try to incorporate that into it, and that you can use your skills to help them. If you want additional help, more in-depth help with crafting your elevator speech, we do have the interview guide and interview workbook, which can help you with this. So let me give you an example. My elevator speech. My name is Frank DeMeo. I'm an IT director with a knack for process improvement and optimization. In my current position as director of service desk, my recent challenge has been the time it takes the team to resolve issues for end users. I introduced a new system and training method across the team, and we managed to reduce our mean time to resolve from 19 minutes per call to 15, which led to a large productivity increase. I know optimization is key for your service desk, and I'm sure I can use my knowledge to achieve great results with this new method. So this is a very plotted out, specific, templatized answer. What you're going to want to do is, once you have this, now you're going to take this and make it your own and be able to talk about this in a very natural way. What's great about an elevator speech is 98% of the time, you're going to be asked, tell me about yourself. And that's a softball question because you're going to be prepared and you're going to have something in your back pocket ready to go, and you can practice it and you'll be ready. So that brings us to the end of Module 2. Let's go on to Module 3.